Gotham Knights is a game that's been on my radar for a while. I did this video after they announced it, and I did this video right as we reached release. Officially, it's the first game I got for PlayStation 5, like Arkham Asylum and Arkham Knight on the generations before it. Technically, though, I got my PS5 almost 2 weeks in advance since I didn't know if supply would be around on launch day, so I actually played Bug Snacks before it, and I technically played Astro's Playroom for a couple of days before that. But that comes pre-installed as like a showcase game for controller features, so that feels less like the official first game. Though since I am getting granular, I did put in a pre-order for Gotham Knights through Walmart before I even had the console, so that does put it first again. I got this classy steelbook case and everything. It shipped separately from the plastic case, so now I just have 2 cases for one game. And if I'm being that anal about things, long before that, I claimed Bug Snacks through PlayStation Plus when it was available for free. And since that was the first PS5 game available on PlayStation Plus, that does make it the first PS5 game on yet another technicality. Really weird that I'm fixating on such tiny, insignificant details that don't meaningfully progress my broader video experience. I wonder what has gotten me in that habit. Gotham Knights is by no means a bad game. It has some high points, and as a Batman fan, I am very glad I have played it. However, many people are not as glad they have played it. The determining line appears to be this: Gotham Knights will really only appeal to people already interested in Gotham Knights. That may sound like some sort of tautology, but it's actually not, and for that I am going to need to use the example set by the Arkham games. Full disclosure, I do think some of the discourse immediately holding GK up to that series can get to the point of being unfair, since it is trying to be its own thing. However, between the developer WB Montreal's last game being one of those games, and this title sharing some pretty plausible similarities if it had perchance originally been written as a sequel to those games, it is somewhat guilty of inviting said comparisons. I still don't think lofty expectations are the issue, though. In fact, I think we're seeing a much larger games industry problem at play. It went woke and now it's broke. That was a joke, because Bane Shakes Charlie has obviously also gone woke. And in fact, I adore the fact they made Dick Grayson explicitly bisexual in this universe. Nightwing is ours now. Hashtag bisexual Dick. This isn't a full and proper review of Gotham Knights, but it probably helps to lay the groundwork before I expose the point I'm making, because I guarantee at least several people watching this have little to no context, because said people are my close friends. Hi, close friends! And also my wife, who may or may not be able to hear me recording this video from the other room. Hi, wife! Don't worry, no spoilers here. Golf Kilo stars Batman's 4 most prominent allies / former sidekicks coming together in the wake of Batman exploding to guard Gotham City while trying not to get exploded themselves. They're not necessarily at risk of exploding at most times or anything, it's just a reasonable goal to have in mind. It's primarily an action RPG, so you have to level up to unlock skills and loot chests and grind resources and craft suits and weapons. Broad picture for story and broad picture for gameplay established. Back to the Arkham thing. The Arkham games obviously work wonders for Batman fans, but I could recommend those games to literally anyone. The stories are compelling, even if people don't know Batman, and the gameplay is a blast, so anyone can enjoy playing them. Story and gameplay both firing on full cylinders. And honestly, since games have the benefit of being what they are, no game technically has to do both to still be a great game. A great story can make passable or plainly competent game forgivable. I often think about Enslaved: Odyssey to the West. I rarely think about Enslaved's gameplay. It was pretty standard beat-em-up stuff, with some very light third-person shooting elements, but I was compelled by the story and never hesitated to play through it multiple times, and I'll probably do it again. The flip side is also true. Great gameplay can make up for weak or even non-existent plot. Miles Morales just speedran the nearly identical plot twists and emotional developments that its older sister game already did better. Literally. It's the "can I copy your homework" meme about changing the answers a little so you don't get caught cheating. If I allowed a margin of error of 3% to someone recalling the plot points of the first game after having not played it in a little while, they would come up with the plot of the second game. However, the existing gameplay was already nearly perfect, and the new changes feel fun and in character with Miles' unique skill set. Hell, look at Minecraft. The only story present comes from the gameplay, and that game is more popular than Jesus Christ. By the way, both Minecraft and Jesus Christ are terrifying from the perspective of trees. Bet you never thought about that. The story in Gotham Knights is passable. It has a few extremely cool moments, and most of the rest are fine. I did early on predict exactly where they were going with several plot developments, and then they did exactly what I predicted, but they didn't go any interesting or novel places with them, and at its worst, it just felt like wasted potential. Most of the gameplay is passable, too. Combat mechanics work fine enough. Stealth works fine enough. Traversal is okay. The bat cycle drives sufficiently, and though they give a ton of options like ranged attacks or doing wheelies to drive up over obstacles, you never have a reason to need either, since it's really only used to get you from point A to point B. Each character also eventually can unlock their own airborne traversal, though that starts to fall apart a little bit. Batgirl's gliding cape and Nightwing's flying glider thingy are the most fun. No major complaints for those two. Robin's teleportation, though, is boring, and it makes it feel like you're going slower than you actually are, which is a cardinal sin for traversal mechanics. Red Hood's is more tolerable to use, but is inexplicable. He gets to magically jump just across the air. They explain it as the side effect of the time he got exploded and then got de-exploded thanks to a magic sauna, which, yes, is from the comics. How did you know? However, they don't really do anything else of note with that concept. If they leaned into it and he was a gunman who becomes a fully fledged mystical marksman, that would have been so cool. But again, wasted potential. If I drew the line here at everything mentioned being passable, I could still recommend it to some people. Not everyone would care, but a licensed franchise at least has a built-in fan base for a passable experience. However, I didn't say Gotham Knights will really only appeal to people already interested in the Gotham Knights earlier in the video. Gotham Knights will really only appeal to people already interested in Gotham Knights. Here, finally getting to the fucking point. The Gotham Knights problem. It's the RPG mechanics. Every time I felt like my experience was dropping below a 7 out of 10 feeling, it was due to RPG bullshit. For the first few hours, I didn't really feel like I could do much. Combat abilities were nearly non-existent, airborne travel was literally non-existent, and it took a while to fight normal enemies out on the streets. I eventually got more abilities, but by the end of the game, I would routinely only stick to using about 2 abilities for each night, since I didn't have proper incentive to use more of the ones I'd unlocked. I got more powerful, and crafted more powerful equipment, literally between missions every single time, and enemies stayed mostly just as damage spongy. Like, some low-level dudes get easier, but they consistently get replaced by tougher enemies anyway. Some of it actually gets dramatically worse. Some endgame enemies take literal minutes to whittle their health down, and then they just resurrect back at like 75% health, and they almost always arrive in pairs. Plus, surrounded by underlings. That just turns it into a slog. And maybe there is some technique I'm missing to avoid that, but the game absolutely does not make that clear. In fact, most of the RPG mechanics are not interesting enough to figure out. I enjoyed myself most when I was being as disengaged as possible with the RPG stuff, trying to treat it as any other action-adventure game. I couldn't completely ignore them, of course, because then I would be dealing no damage. However, looking through at stats building is a chore. Oh, This mod chip will do 11% elemental damage buildup. Cool, now I can do elemental effects after 54 hits on the big fellas instead of 56 hits. Oh, this suit has 3 points less damage, but 4% critical increase over the other one? I sure love having to do math homework on a suit I will need to switch out the literal moment I finish this mission. Bluntly, I have no clue what the power stat even does. The game did not sufficiently explain that. Another thing, there are several crafting resources in the game. I cannot name any of them. I do not know which go into which items, and I never really lacked any of them until I reached in-game items, when I realized, oh, I've never seen that resource before. Then I just sort of had some later from some undetermined action, even though I'd only done these same things I'd already been doing. In fact, doing the same things I'd already been doing was most of the experience. Grind side mission A to complete a challenge to progress. Grind combat move A to complete a different challenge. Do this enough times, you probably get the picture. Some of you probably get the picture better than others. This isn't a problem unique to Gotham Knights. Gameplay design like this goes all the way back to MMORPGs, like that one famous one. You know the one. Toontown. See, Mamorpagas in their heyday almost always operated on monthly fees instead of just one upfront cost. So presumably, they needed the additional costs for continued online infrastructure. I say presumably because so many have adopted free-to-play or no monthly fee options now that it's reasonable to assume they always could have been doing these, and it was just to make mad profit for the fat cats in charge. Since they wanted players coming back to pay for more play, they couldn't just do good game design like usual. Ocarina of Time is famously some of the goodest game design you can find in the traditional sense. And that's what? 25 hours to play? Maybe 40 if you're a completionist? That would barely get you anything in monthly fees. So these games prioritize addictive design. You gotta constantly drip feed the player little bursts of dopamine. Look, new loot! Look, you leveled up! Tiny, addictive rewards. Look at all of these progress trackers promising more. Just 5 more dragon taints and you reach a new milestone. You can't quit playing now, you're so close to great things. One more fight, maybe then you'll do some awesome critical damage at random. Maybe they'll drop legendary blueprints this time. At random. It's like drugs for your brain. I suppose regular drugs are also just drugs for your brain, too. The point is, this is called operant conditioning. It's the same thing you see from gambling, and it was a deliberate design choice. Don't get me wrong, any game is giving you dopamine when you succeed. That's just how the brain works. But for the longest time, one-time pay games had no need to lean into this design style. Once they had your 50, 60, 70 bucks, they didn't care. You could eat that disc on a sandwich, or jizz on it, or do the latter, then do the former, and they wouldn't care. They already made their money. But that's no longer enough. There's far more profit to be squeezed out of people these days. Some developers call this games as a service, others live service, and some deny it outright, but if you see design like this, it's intentional. The longer someone plays a game, the more likely they are to spend extra money in the game. Currently, right after launch, Gotham Knights is offering a $25 pack with extra suits and color options. Seems rather exorbitant, considering that price typically gets you full expansion packs in other games, but someone hooked is more likely to cave in and splurge on it. And, even if you don't, they still have a great marketing tool with the longer gameplay hours. New games routinely cost $70 now. $70 for a 10-hour game sounds less appealing than 70 hours for a 30-hour game, even though 20 of those hours are now padding. This, counterintuitively, may even help get more content for less development resources. It's cheaper to have people develop less. I'm going to do an Arkham comparison again. Sorry. Gotham Knights takes much longer to play than Arkham Origins by the same developer. Gotham Knights has 2 main villain factions for the story, and 3 optional side mission villains for a total of 5 villains. 6 if you're being really generous and count a late game enemy type, which is sort of a classic Batman villain, but copy-pasted all over the place. Arkham Origins has 14. 15 if you count Bane's henchman Bird, since he gets his own side mission, and all without the same degree of padding. The worst part is, Gotham Knights is the first full game WB Montreal has released since Arkham Origins, 9 years ago in 2013. They have had multiple rumored cancelled projects, at least one of which we've actually seen concept art from, so I'm not that surprised that the corporate overlords dictated a game style like this to try and recoup costs a little bit faster, and in their defense, when it's not copy-paste grindfests, the budget does show very well. Unfortunately, the Gotham Knights problem is really just the peak of a much, much larger industry problem. Assassin's Creed, my other forte, kept swelling and swelling with recent entries, but there, I think the mechanics were engaging enough to not fall in the same pit Gotham Knights did, although some people will definitely disagree on that. Gotham Knights is not even the worst offender. Squeenix's Avengers game is reportedly much guiltier. I have not played it because everything I hear about it baffles me. Apparently the base game only had 4 villains. They were willing to sell cosmetics for the 6 base game heroes, and only willing to let you fight 4 villains. Gee, wonder how that helped maximize profit. At the end of the day, I think the backlash we are seeing with Gotham Knights was inevitable, and probably healthier for any future games WB Montreal makes. I think it's valid for people to be tired of this kind of thing. Most developers will eventually listen if complaints get loud enough. At least partially. The next Assassin's Creed is being touted as a return to form like the older titles, which probably wouldn't have been the case if people weren't banging on their drums on the inherent issues with the newer games. Square Enix followed up Avengers with Guardians of the Galaxy, a much better game that focused on a detailed, linear single-player story. Now, to be fair, publishing that one could have been the case in the first place, but it seems like there was at least some effect. Let's keep communicating things we don't like. These characters don't deserve fine. They deserve the best. Nightwing deserves the best. I desire, nay, demand only the best dick I can get. Really, you expect me to back down from that comment? Have you even watched my videos before?